Welcome to Unfiltered Summit Sisters. I'm Gina.
And I'm Julia.
We are two ride-or-die best friends who are paving the path for what true, authentic relationships look like.
We're facing hardships head-on, having real, uncensored conversations, supporting each other's growth, and shining a light on true, raw healing.
We are navigating the world the best we know how.
Having a hell of a time doing it.
Laughing every step of the way.
Through the rain
and sunshine.
This is Canyon Culture.
Welcome back to Unfiltered Summit Sisters. We have hoodies over our heads.
We do.
Blankets around our waists. And it's only August. What the hell?
Yeah. Things are happening. Things are changing.
I feel like we just posted videos of saying the same thing, only because they were getting warm.
Right.
Anyway, we're going to move on to the topic because I don't want to talk about how cold it is.
No.
We had a few things this week that kind of sparked an idea of a topic I wanted to talk about. You had an incident with one of your girls. I had, and I've had a continuing incident with one of my kids where the lesson that I'm learning is sometimes walking away is the right choice. Not forever. You can't walk away forever. That's not an option.
Dang it.
But when you're having a heated moment, or when you're having a hard time expressing your feelings, or when they're having, when there's emotions, high emotions, sometimes walking away is the right thing to do. And my history has shown that I don't do that well, because in my marriage, if we stopped the conversation, the likelihood of us bringing it back up would never happen. And not that like pushing it solved any problems anyway.
Right.
But for me, I didn't like that feeling. And so not only would the topic never come up again, but then we had this like turmoil just sitting in our relationship. And so I wanted to have the conversation, and I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, and it was not good. That's some place where I was like, that wasn't like a good thing for me to do as a person, as a wife. If he wasn't wanting to talk about it anymore, if I needed to step away, I would just shove it in both of our faces. And then we have to fix this right now.
Right.
So as the healing and the growing has happened, I've got a kid who's super, super hard for me and can get me from 0 to 100 in 0.5 seconds. And I am learning, for his physical safety, I need to walk away. And I'm finding other places where sometimes you just need to walk away, and not like in a disrespectful way, but like, hey, we're gonna have to talk about this later.
Yeah, it makes me think of that saying. You and I've talked about this before. Never go to bed angry. I think that is the stupidest advice anybody could ever give.
It's like, I feel like there's more to that, but just saying, like how, because like, let me just paint a picture. You and your significant other are having a hard conversation.
Right.
And you're exhausted. You could be hungry too.
Right.
And you stay up.
You're exhausted. You're hungry. It's now 1 a.m.
And everything's fresh. Emotions are fresh. Right. Whatever happened was fresh. And you're going to try, you think you're going to have a solution to that in your heart, like with all of your stimulants going crazy?
You think it's a good idea to keep going?
No. Because how many times have you and I had hard days and we go to and wake up and be like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Because we were just tired.
Absolutely.
I love that meme of the little girl that's like, I just want to take a nap right here. And she's like laying on the beach, right? It's like, sometimes just take a nap. But what was it? Which prophet was it? Was it Daniel who was tired? Elijah, tired and hungry.
Elijah was like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And God was like, here's a snack, take a nap. And he felt better.
Right. So it's kind of piggybacking on that idea. Yeah, absolutely take a nap. Go to bed and wake up with fresh eyes, fresh energy, and see what things are still on the table that still need to discuss. Because most of the time, the majority of them aren't necessary.
Right. You're going to wake up and be like, oh, that wasn't as big as what it felt like in the moment.
That's what it is. And so when we can transfer that over to parenting,
right.
Like so with this specific child, I'm getting riled up because of his behavior. And I'm wanting to fix, I'm going, no, you may not behave this way. And I want to correct that right then and there, instead of going, me yelling and screaming at you is not going to have you change your attitude. But me walking out and saying, we'll talk about this another time, so that I'm calm and fresh. Because that's what I'm noticing with this specific kid. When I'm calm, he gets calm. He's like a sponge for whatever energy I'm having. So if I go in big, bear, aggressive, he gets big, bear, aggressive. If I go in and go, you seem to have some emotions right now. He goes, yeah. Like, which ones are you having? And he tells me. But if I'm, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, But I'm noticing that with my teenagers too, you know?
Right.
And
I need somebody to do that for me.
Yeah. Life's too hard. Can we pause real quick? And like, can someone let me just take a nap and then we'll come back at it again?
Yeah.
But like life has to stop though, because if I take a nap, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. This is something that I put into practice as much as I can when it's needed, with especially my teenagers.
Mm-hmm. Why
Teenagers,
especially your teenagers?
Parenting them is a whole different season of parenting. We've moved on from keeping them safe and making sure they don't die, right? Not running in the street and those
Touching
kinds
fire.
of things too. They're growing to be young adults, right? My oldest is 17. 17. She's an adult next year. My season of parenting her is coming to a close.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that I will always have the opportunity to discipleship her.
Yeah.
But my season of parenting her is coming to a close. And so our relationships look different as they get older. One thing that my dad has always taught me is that relationship is more important than anything, and that should always be your priority.
I think that's something that helped shift this mentality for me, was that having heard your dad say that, was teaching them whatever I feel like I need to teach them right now is not as important as our relationship. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I had an instance the other day where we've been getting ready for school to start, which I'm still in denial is happening.
Which is, no,
thankfully we don't start till after Labor Day. So
thank you for that.
And it's just getting everybody registered for I have 6 kids, right? And so I've got 6 kids going to school 2 times a week at a micro school. I've got 3 girls dancing. I've got 1 in musical theater. I've got 2 in tumbling. I've got 1 in jiu-jitsu, and getting all of that set up and organized in schedules. That doesn't even include my own business.
Right.
And getting my students registered and making sure I can still work and get these kids to activities and homeschool. And it is insane the amount of juggling and organization I have to do. So I spent all week doing all of those things and busting my butt.
It's a miracle you were able to get it all to fit the way that you were able to make it fit. It's incredible.
I know. And I busted my butt all freaking week. And date night comes around. And I have a teenager who is super rude and sassy. She's like, I don't want to watch the kids tonight. I don't want to make a box of mac and cheese. Mind you, she's done nothing all day. All day. And I can already feel it rising inside of me, because I'm like, I've been busting my butt for you guys all freaking week. The amount of work it's going to take me, the amount of sacrifice it's going to take me during the school year this year to get you guys to everything that you want to be doing and make these opportunities for you. And I'm asking you to make a box of mac and cheese and just make sure nobody dies for a couple hours. That's it. That's
really tall order. That is a tall order apparently for teenagers.
And literally, I don't have little babies anymore. I don't have toddlers anymore. They're going to play and they're going to watch TV, and you don't even have to actually be in the room watching them the whole time. You just have to make sure nobody dies. Like, what I'm asking is really not a lot. And she's being super sassy and rude, and well, I just don't want to. I just don't feel like it. And everything in me is just like, I want to say all of this back to her. I don't feel like doing your extracurriculars and signing you up for all these things. I don't freaking feel like any of it.
I don't feel like making you dinner and doing your laundry and cleaning up after you and driving you to your friend's house.
No, I don't feel like any of it.
You know what I feel like doing is eating Oreos in my bed watching a movie all day.
I literally had a teenager come in while I was organizing things, and we were going over something, and I needed her help with something, and she goes, "Oh, I'm not here to help. I'm just here to give my opinion."
I know exactly which child that is.
And I was like, are you freaking kidding me right now? So I feel it building up inside me, and I walk away. I'm like, this is not, I can already tell that I'm getting upset and angry. So I walk away, and I send her a text message that just said, I'm sorry you're feeling the way that you're feeling. Maybe you should go for a walk or take a bath or make yourself a treat, do something to make yourself feel better. Because she was just so snotty. And anyway, she refused to do any of that. And my boyfriend came home after work, and was like, how can I help? And I was like, I just need you to be a buffer between her and I right now, because anything that I say or do is going to damage our relationship.
Right.
This is not something that needs to be addressed right now.
Especially if she's in that mood and you're angry about it, right? Like, that's not a teaching moment. That's not a learning moment.
No.
The butting head is the only option.
It's going to damage our relationship. People are going to say things they don't mean. Feelings are going to get hurt, and you can't take words back.
Yeah.
And so that was a moment where I knew I needed to step away and give space, and address it at another time when we were both calm, when we didn't have things happening right there in the heat of the moment. And that was a very wise thing to do.
What's interesting is, even hearing that story, there's so much panic inside of me that I feel by just walking away. There's something about that. And I explained how things were in my marriage, but I don't even know if that's all of it. And I'm going to have to dig into that, because I'm not sure what that panic is for me, of maybe just not having any resolution. And so if you leave it, like, I don't know. But I had a situation this week where I needed, or last week, babysitting for my kids is really hard, because we have like general household rules, but my babysitters are not, no one respects each other. They're all rude to each other and mean.
Yeah.
And so we established before I went out, and I went up to Salt Lake, so I was further away than I typically go. We established that you just need to keep kids safe. That's all I'm asking. So if they break a rule, if you ask them to do a chore, or if you ask them to go to bed and they don't, just write it down, and I will address that with them when I get home or the next day.
Right.
You don't need to do it. So 9:45 at night, I get a phone call from a neighbor saying that my 7-year-old is out riding his bike. And I was like, well, what's happening? What's happening?
Right.
So I call my son, and I was like, so where's Thomas? He goes, he ran away. And I was like, and we're not going to like tell me about it or go find him? He's like, well, I wrote it down on the piece of paper. And I was like, oh my gosh. I wrote it down on the, what was the, is, what? Like, boys are so dumb.
Like, I don't even have words right now.
I didn't. I really didn't. I was like, I don't even know. Like, I just asked you to keep them safe.
Yeah.
I feel like the 7-year-old out on his bike at 9:45, 10 o'clock at night, not safe.
Yeah.
That's when anyway. So as frustrated as I was, even the next morning, I waited until I was calm, because if I just screamed at him, he'd shut down. He wouldn't listen. He wouldn't. I mean, even when I was calm, he still was like not getting it. But I really love the saying from your dad, that relationship over everything, because that is when learning happened. When you have that relationship, that there is trust, where your kid can come to you and say, I'm having a hard time, because you're not the one freaking out all the time. Your interactions are not always high intensity. When you have respect, when you have the foresight to sit down and calm yourself before you talk to them and call them all the mean names you want to.
Right.
It establishes a relationship. So when they're going through a hard time, they trust to come to you. When they're struggling with things, they're there to listen. And when you go to talk to them, they're going to listen more, because you're not freaking out.
For sure.
But there is a weird panic in me, and I'm like figuring out right now it's more than I thought it was.
Well, and I think that there are some things that you do need to go back and address.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you take time away and you cool down and you figure out that's really not something that needs to be addressed. It's not as big as I thought it was.
Which I love, because maybe there's so much controlling that happened when I was married that I'm wondering if that's part of it, is it's relinquishing that control of fixing every single thing. And my family has to look a certain way, and my kids need to behave a specific way because we don't behave like that.
Right.
And that control and that holding on too tight just makes it where the relationship struggles, and your ultimate goal is never going to be accomplished that way. But it's a hard one. That's a hard one for me. But I do find the more I can do that, the more peace I find. But it's not easy.
No, it's not. Especially when you're heated and you're in the moment.
Yeah, it is. So I'm grateful for your dad's advice. There's a lot of times where the things that he says really ring in my ears. And so I'm grateful that I can step back and go, is this going to hurt our relationship? If it is, it's not worth the conversation.
Right. Because
they need their relationship with their mom more than anything. So I'm grateful for Papa Hayden, Doc Hayden, all the different Hayden names. Yeah. Dad. For just instilling that wisdom in us and to help us just be able to be better moms.
Yeah, I'm grateful for his advice as well. Two of the things that have really stuck with me. So I'm the oldest, and my dad has parented 7 of us. 7 of us for a very long time. I was going to say the number of years, but then we don't need to go into that. For 21 years. Just kidding.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, 17-year-old.
Yeah. He's parented the 7 of us for a very long time. And I really believe there's not like a single scenario we haven't thrown at him between the 7 of us. And the 2 biggest pieces of advice that he has given me and instilled in me as a parent is 1, enjoy your kids, because it goes by so fast. When you need to discipline and move on.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be long. It doesn't need to be dragged out. If you're talking to them for more than 10 minutes, it's too long. They're not listening. They're checked out. They're done. Discipline, have the conversation, and then move on and enjoy them and make memories, because it goes by really fast.
Yeah.
And then the second thing was to always prioritize relationship over everything. And I've said this before on the podcast, but as we got older teenagers and young adults, we would come to Dad and ask him for advice on certain things. And he would say, I'll give you my advice, but I want you to know that I respect your decision more than my opinion, which gave us the freedom to hear what he has to say. But then we're all going to make our own decisions. And no matter what decision that was, even if it was completely opposite of what he said, he left that space open for us to come back and be like,
sorry,
you were freaking right, Dad.
But it still fosters that relationship. You know, it still gives space for that relationship. So I just hope that this is something that a young mom or somebody else who's struggling with relationships will learn to it is okay to walk away. No, you do not have to go to bed with happy feelings towards the person you're sleeping with.
Right.
As long as you're willing to address what does need to get addressed the next morning, and you come at a place from love. So, okay.
Fabulous.
Hopefully this helps somebody, and hopefully I figure out my inner turmoil.
We'll update y'all on that.
And now let's go get warm.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Unfiltered Summit Sisters.
Come join us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to get a sneak peek into our lives.
It's beautiful, chaotic, crazy, and fun.
What else would you expect raising 10 kids?
All the links you need are in the show notes.
See you next week.